Sting's run in AEW has been nothing short of a success so far. After over 5 years out of the ring, and being in his early 60s, this should have spelled disaster. However, defying age and being helped by some clever booking, Sting has been a big highlight of AEW since he joined the young company. Teaming up with Darby Allin, his tag team matches have all been entertaining. However, given his age, there's a high chance that he doesn't have much time left inside a ring, and sooner rather than later, he is likely to take a step back from in-ring competition, which bodes the question, who should be the one to retire him? So, in this regards, let's take a look at 10 possible retirement matches for Sting in AEW. Number 10. Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is somebody who could get a good match out of anyone and everyone, and being one of the biggest names in AEW, he would be the perfect candidate to give Sting a great match on his way out. It is unclear whether Omega will be heel or babyface in the long run, but a heel Omega would be a good choice to retire Sting. Omega vs Sting is a match that should never have even been anywhere close to happening, taking into account their origination divide and Sting's injuries, but it is now within the realm of possibility, and a huge match on paper. Number 9. Miro. It would be a storybook ending for Sting to go out after a triumphant performance, but something that would undoubtedly put over a new star, is if they absolutely ran through Sting in his final ever match, and a perfect name for that would be Miro. Since he was given the Redeemer gimmick, Miro has felt like hugely dangerous competitor, and he would benefit tremendously if he squashed Sting on his way out of wrestling. Of course, AEW would have to follow up by having Miro move into the main event scene, if he isn't there by that point already, but that would be something welcomed by the fans. Number 8. FTR. Sting and Darby Allin have faced FTR on 2 occasions, both in 2-on-2 and trios action, and both times the matches have delivered. Although it is a match fans have seen before, the feud between the four is something that could be brought back, and carried on, and FTR being one of the best tag teams in recent memory, would be a safe choice. Having FTR defeat Darby Allin and Sting, with a tag team match further ensuring that the contest would be good and appropriate for a farewell, especially if Sting is not capable of having an extended singles match. Number 7. Hook. This one may be a huge stretch to justify, but as one of the biggest rising stars in AEW with an immense popularity, capitalizing on that by having him retire Sting would legitimize Hook to no end. He does have a history with Sting too, feuding with Sting and Darby Allin as a member of Team Taz back in the Icon's very first AEW feud. Number 6. Malachi Black. Having a dangerous heel dominate a veteran who is about to retire is a recipe for success and for boosting the heel into bigger heights. One of the top singles heel choices for retiring Sting has to be Malachi Black. Though, he is far away from holding the aura that would have made a Sting vs Undertaker match special, he is the closest thing AEW has to a character of that ilk, making him someone who would mesh well with someone like Sting. Black is yet to reach the levels that many believe he is capable of, so a victory like this would propel him upwards. Number 5. CM Punk. Both CM Punk and Sting have made it no secret that they are incredibly fond of one another and love teaming up together. They have also both implied that working against each other in a match is something on their bucket lists. Punk vs Sting is a huge match between two of the greats, and would be perhaps the biggest match name-wise that Sting could have in AEW. Number 4. MJF. MJF is one of the biggest heels in AEW, and in the whole of wrestling. He is someone who basks in the hatred from the fans, and there would be no better way to procure heat than being the man who retires a legend of the business in Sting. Just imagining the content that MJF could produce from bragging about ending Sting's career is enough to convince anyone that MJF would be a top candidate to have his final match. MJF's character work, in addition to his very underrated in-ring ability, would help to have a great match for Sting to bow out. Number 3. Darby Allin. Having either Darby Allin or Sting turn heel would be a mistake, given that both men are two of the more natural babyface acts in the entirety of AEW. However, a student versus mentor match is a formula that usually works, regardless of the face-heel dynamic, so tensions could rise without a turn, especially with how AEW builds character and stories. Sting putting over Allin would be the perfect way to pass the torch to him properly, although it would certainly be a big risk to build a feud between the two, after having such a successful partnership. Number 2. The Young Bucks. As a tag team, Sting and Darby Allin have beaten an array of opponents in AEW. From FTR to 2.0 to the Acclaimed, they have defeated most of the heel teams up and down the card. However, they have yet to face perhaps the biggest and best team in AEW, the Young Bucks. Allin and Sting versus the Young Bucks is a money match, and one which would be an incredible spectacle, so much that it could conceivably be Sting's final ever wrestling match. With how well the Allin and Sting partnership has worked, it would make sense to finish his career whilst teaming with the young star. Number 1. Bryan Danielson. Since joining All Elite Wrestling, Bryan Danielson has been on an absolute roll, doing some of the best work of his entire career, having Match of the Year candidates in his sleep. Danielson is yet another star who has the ability to get a great match out of anyone, and Sting would be no different. The brutality and storytelling that Danielson brings to his matches would work well with someone who is fighting for their career or retiring, especially an aging and popular veteran. Danielson vs. Sting is a dream match on paper, one which would never have seemed possible with both men's career-ending injuries within the last decade. But if Sting is to have a singles match to end his run, there may be no better choice of an opponent than Danielson if the intention is to have a great match. Shane McMahon has always dedicated full attention to WWE whenever he has returned to the company. Even being the boss's son, Shane has never failed to give a fantastic match. We know him as one of the high-risk takers during the match. Shane McMahon, even though as a wrestler, also does some backstage work for WWE. He has worked as a referee, producer, and announcer in WWE. He recently appeared as the 28th entrant in the 2022 Royal Rumble match. Shane was the producer for this year's Royal Rumble match and it didn't get along well with the fans and critics. Many backstage officials and talents were upset with him. Eventually, recently it was announced WWE has let go Shane McMahon. Recently, Booker T was on a YouTube podcast Reality of Wrestling with Brad Gilmore. Brad asked Booker's opinion on the legacy of Shane McMahon after his certain so-called release. Booker T said, "I don't think we should be having a conversation whether we are gonna see Shane McMahon in a WWE ring, doing something again. I would be wrong, but I think Shane McMahon will do something with WWE in the future in some capacity." Booker T thinks there were some missing pieces in the Royal Rumble match which Shane booked. It was not like the one which Triple H and other producers have booked in the past. However, Booker T was of the opinion that the wrestlers who were there with Shane McMahon aren't wrestling today. So, it is too early to talk about what legacy Shane McMahon has in WWE. He will probably have some more matches in the future.